what I feel like when I'm wearing this top?
Cold, because there's a gap.
No, I feel like a beautiful ballet girl, because when I was a child, girls whose grandmothers knitted had crossover tops like this to wear in ballet class, but my grandmother didn't like knitting. And back then, I'm not sure if they were available to buy. I never saw one in a shop, so I didn't have one. And so as an adult, any kind of crossover cardigan, I found it very hard not to buy it, which is why I've got a lot of things a bit like this in my wardrobe, but I will continue to buy more of them because I think there is a void in me from having a grandmother who didn't knit me the things I wanted, that I will perhaps never fill.
That's healthy.
I think so. Well, hello friends, and welcome to Ariel's Twilight Years, how to be a really, really, really old model. Hello! I'm joined by my husband, Hywel, I said Gareth, and our little Welsh orangutan, Gareth, today. And we're going to talk about a subject which is, as always, dear to my heart. That's what I always say. I'm afraid your attention whore wife went on a podcast.
Yes.
When I did the promotion for my first book in the USA, I did a whole load of podcasts. I cannot remember what I said in any of them. I had no idea when any of them were going to come out. Now some of them have come out, and I've listened to them and been like, oh, I said that. Anyway, and one of the podcasts I went on was the Loving Without Boundaries, which is a podcast about polyamory and non-monogamy. Kitty Shablis is the host, and she is a relationship coach. Like, amazing. It was a really good podcast. But something I mentioned in that podcast, but also which I have mentioned when I've posted stuff about pitching my second book to publishers, is that we are not strictly monogamous. And I really thought, I don't think I should be just spouting about this on my own.
Idea, do you think?
Like just sort of dragging you behind me.
Yes.
So I thought, what a great opportunity to
Drag me along behind you.
to invite Hywel onto my podcast. This is not a podcast, is it? What's the difference between a YouTube video and a podcast? I feel like it's having a microphone. We are going to talk about our not strictly monogamous ness. So, loads of our friends have known about this for some time. This is not really new information, but we haven't really talked about it for just purely public consumption, so we thought we probably should really, just so we don't have this sort of two-tier.
You're not good at that.
No, we'd much rather be honest, and at the end of the video we'll talk about why we haven't been particularly forthcoming earlier. I remember back at the beginning of our relationship, in 2007, I guess, 2006, 2007, we were already both doing BDSM at work. I was also playing with some people. I'm doing BDSM outside of work. And because we were already BDSMing with lots of people, we did have a conversation, which you probably do not remember.
I do actually.
Do you?
Yeah, for once. Yeah, for once.
We had a conversation which felt very kind of like a coin toss almost, about shall we play with other people now that we're getting together or not. And I remember saying to you, I just don't really mind. I like playing with other people, but I also like the idea of this kind of really exclusive special thing. And you just, it seemed like you came down just the other side of the line.
Yes, and I think the reason why I did at the time is that I realised that what I wanted with you was a romantically monogamous relationship. I wanted us not to be play partners. I wanted us to be proper romantic life partners, ending up married as we did.
Yes, and exclusivity is a way to signal
was
that.
Sort of a signal for that, and just a sort of, it seemed an awful lot to disentangle all at once otherwise.
Yes.
So the decision that we took was that we were going to continue to play with other people on screen, the way we always had for work, but that we weren't going to play with other people off screen for fun.
Yes, and we weren't going to go and link up with other couples and do BDSM as a group either. Yeah. I mean, I still don't want to. I'm too shy. Like, the more people that...
I probably would be fine too, but like, it would be another conversation to have.
Yeah. So, do you want to take over now and tell like the next bit of the story?
Yeah, so, I mean, basically, at some stage we changed our minds on that.
Do you want to talk about like your kind of philosophy of how that's happened?
Well, I mean, I think at some point I realised that some of the play relationships we portray on screen feel like acting and always have.
Totally.
And some of them, if you're on the right wavelength with the other person, they just feel like play.
They feel a lot more like the real thing, yeah.
Even if all you've done is time up in a hog tie, if you're just on the same wavelength, that feels like you've had a play session.
Yeah, like a kind of chemistry.
Yeah.
Like a wavelength chemistry kind of thing, yeah.
And just because it just seemed at the right point that we were just denying ourselves the ability to explore that.
Yes.
And I think we just changed our mind and decided, okay, well, let's.
I'm just going to join in, darling, on your section, even though it's a black section, not a pink section. The pink sections are my sections. But it seems to me that for kinky people, we already have a wider spectrum, quite often, of activities that we're interested in.
Yes.
You know, I'm guessing vanilla couples would often have a range of things they wanted to do, kind of as part of their sex lives. But kinky people quite often have quite a wide range. Both of us certainly have quite a wide range.
Yes.
Neither of us are particularly monomaniacal.
No.
And it seems like when one of you's got this wide spectrum and the other of you's got this wide spectrum, there's very likely to be some activities that only one of those people is interested in.
Yeah.
And it seemed like at the beginning of our relationship, because neither of us had got any experience of a kind of full-time BDSM relationship, I felt like, oh, I shall sacrifice those activities that Hywel isn't interested in.
Yeah.
I've got, that's fine, I'll just sacrifice them and I'll do them at work. And I imagine you might have gone through a similar sort of thing.
Yep.
And then I think as I've got older and I'm more aware of like time being limited, especially because I've got a few conditions that might mean that 70-year-old me doesn't get to really do all the BDSM she wants, especially because I'm a sub, so I'm the one who's having physical stuff done to me. I kind of think, I don't know if I want to not do those activities and just rely on people to book me to do those.
Yeah, and
it
like
seems a bit artificial.
In the end, it just started to feel daft.
I think we're
go
missing
and
out.
go and do that thing with people you want to do that thing with. If it's not something I want to do, just like go and play golf. I don't care. I don't want to play golf. If you want to go and play golf, go and have fun, play golf.
Because I don't feel like I am particularly served by you not doing something with someone else because I don't want to do it, and I don't feel like I'm particularly being an amazing wife by just sort of sacrificing a part of my sexuality.
No, just like this
at a certain point, it felt better to have potentially awkward conversation rather than shutting down bits of ourselves.
Absolutely,
a little capriciously, really.
Yes, there were some things it had really got, particularly for you. I think it had got that you really were feeling shut down. Let's not shut you down. Just go do it.
And I didn't feel like you shut me down. I remember sometimes thinking, God, when I retire, which obviously I might have to do, at 50, not 67, because my job's physical. I used to think, I wonder if we'll have to renegotiate our relationship when I retire
absolutely.
and I don't get to randomly do schoolgirl spanking 6 times a year.
Yeah.
Because I used to sometimes think, I think I've really missed that. And then I sort of shut that thought down and think, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But actually, I think crossing that bridge before we needed to come to it might be a more positive thing to do.
Absolutely. So I think that's one of the things that we maybe should leave to the end, but would say that if you were injured and couldn't work anymore, I no longer feel like that would be an absolute catastrophe.
Yeah.
Because there's other outlets.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to say in your section?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Now we're on to a section where we both talk equally.
Do we?
Yeah. Equal amounts. What we're going to talk about now is where we are now, because this has actually been something that we've been doing now for several years.
Yep.
So I wouldn't have wanted to talk about it when we were new because I wouldn't have felt confident that we would have any wisdom to share.
No, I'm still not sure how much wisdom we've got to share.
No. So this is probably a work in progress, and maybe in 5 more years we'll have a lot more wisdom and we can make this video again. So, first thing I would like to say, I think, is that what I've learned from several years of kind of working on a renegotiated version of our relationship is that it does, if you want to do that, and I don't mean just in this way, but kind of renegotiate your primary romantic relationship in any way, it does force you to communicate really well because you're talking about stuff that's potentially really
an emotional minefield.
Yeah, and so I think it's not like I've enjoyed every one of those conversations, especially the ones earlier on.
No, absolutely.
Especially because, of course, with the religious cult background I have, kind of the idea of sin looms.
Yeah, and there's
really
all manner of potential
large.
buried triggers that you've no idea. I don't think either of us knew that they were potentially there. For the person who's triggered as well as the person doing the triggering. Just wow, I didn't realise I was going to feel like that.
No, so I think it has maybe forced us to have some quite advanced conversations.
Yeah.
And I feel as a result, I do feel like we've probably learned to communicate better. I mean, I think we've communicated well anyway, but I certainly feel like I can't think of a single conversation that I wouldn't know how to broach with you now because we've done some of the
most
potentially kind of explosive sort of conversation. So that's a really nice thing that I'm grateful for, because when you force yourselves to grow in any way, intellectually or physically as an individual or as a couple, you end up with some skills you didn't have at the end of it. Would you like to talk about any of these things?
I can't read them, so
sure.
No. So do we love each other less? No, we love each other more.
Yeah.
And we are more confident in each other's reactions and responses, and we are more secure because I think some of the feelings that can lead to cheating and affairs and betrayal and going behind each other's backs, we've experienced the feelings, we've talked about them openly, we've figured out what the solution is, we've gone and done it, and then we come home and we are happy. So no, I think we love each other more. I certainly feel much more secure.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't before.
No, I felt secure before as well.
But really, like, I struggle to think now what could come along that would threaten it.
Well, now we've proved to each other and to ourselves that we are capable of developing flexibility around something really important.
Yeah.
And so I think probably we'll make a good stab of being flexible about other things that life might throw in our way.
Yeah.
There might be much more difficult things in the future, and I feel like we have maybe developed some of the skills that will help us manage those things.
Yeah.
And I also think I had a lot of sort of value judgments about monogamy because it was
not surprising because of your religious upbringing.
like it was meant to be the happiest thing, but it was also the morally upright thing, and so everything else is a bit less good and also sinful, but also kind of weak, because can't you just be happy one partner to express all of your sexual interests with? And I think it's been really good for me to let go of that, because it certainly made me highly less judgmental about the other ways that people live.
And I think me the same, although I didn't have a religious upbringing at all, I didn't have any pattern for it either.
No.
It felt to me like, well, obviously the ideal, if you've got the right person, is you feel like that towards each other. And off you go.
And you don't miss the sexual things you aren't doing with
No,
them.
certainly I agree with that. Like, anything else feels a bit like, well, my parents were clearly very happy, that's the ideal, why don't you just do that?
Yeah. Another thing that I have learned, I don't know if you would feel the same about this, is that my idea about boundaries, illustrated by the beginning of our relationship actually, is that you should have a discussion, you should set the boundaries, and then you stick to them. And what I think I've learned is that establishing boundaries is more of a process.
Yeah, I agree.
You can get things wrong through kind of lack of imagination or insecurity or
lack of self-knowledge.
Yeah, and so actually now I look back at the beginning of these conversations we were having, some of the rules that we initially decided on weren't right.
Yes.
And it took us a while to figure out, and there was some stuff we just didn't know that we should discuss.
We just didn't know, and just figuring out which stuff is important, which stuff isn't important. And I think that those things change, at least for me, like the more experience, the more comfortable you get with things that I thought would bother me don't.
Yes.
And things that I didn't realise would bother me do.
Yeah.
And so I think it has to be a discussion and a process.
Yes.
And I think you have to stick to whatever the boundaries agreed are
until you've talked
about changing them.
Yes.
Obviously, because not doing that would be an absolute twatty thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
But I think you need to be very flexible setting those boundaries and to realise they need repeated revisiting until you feel like you've really got into a solid state with them.
And clearly that's not specific to the idea of moving beyond a strictly monogamous relationship. That's also the case with any BDSM, that the stuff you want to do and you're both willing to do when you're both 25 might be different by the time you're 30.
Yeah.
And so I do think maybe the practice of dressing your boundaries, talking about them and seeing if they work for both of you on a fairly regular basis might be a really good thing to do. And this process has kind of given us an experience in doing it.
Yeah, and it's given us experience doing it with the other play partners as well, because of course obviously we've had to have the consent and the boundaries of what we want to do discussion with them as well as with each other. So we've got a lot more experience of setting those boundaries and trying to figure out how to navigate them, how to negotiate a subtle change of the boundaries without hurting anybody's feelings and things like that.
One thing I've definitely learned is that it makes you very aware of your own insecurities.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that sometimes when you've said you're going to go and do something, or you've asked, like, do you mind if I go and do this? There's this awful basic instinct in me to sort of like go, no, you can't. No, because that threatens me.
Yeah.
And it's really good experience to challenge yourself. Well, how generous can I be?
Yeah.
Rather than like, how stingy can I be? What really matters, and how kind to my partner can I be?
Yeah.
Because actually what I want is for you to have the most fulfilling BDSM and sexual experiences. When your life ends, I want you to have had the most fulfilling life.
Yeah, and I certainly don't want the thing that you look back on as having held you back to be me.
Absolutely.
Jeez, that would be awful.
I would love people to think I was really super secure, but of course no one is super secure, I don't think, and I'm no exception to that. All sorts of insecurities. And I think this experience has forced me to confront some of that and question whether, is this something that I don't want Hywel to do from some deeply held moral point of view, or is this literally that I'm scared I'm not pretty? And I think that's been quite good for me.
Yes, and like for me, it turns out the initial answer is almost always, oh God, no, that sounds awful. But the moment you've done it twice, I'm completely indifferent to it, and it's like we've been doing it all along.
You are quite secure, aren't you?
Well, I am, but it's not like the instinct isn't there to go, at the first
don't do that. Don't change anything. For God's sake, let's not change anything.
Yeah, let's not change anything. Yeah, that'd be, oh no, that's going to be another couple of awkward conversations.
Yeah.
But then as I realise as you've done it, oh yeah, I'm completely indifferent to that now.
So, now we're on to our last section, don't worry,
Yes,
you can go back to work soon. Because I'm sure that there will be people watching this, especially people who followed our work for a while, who'll be thinking, why on earth didn't you talk about this before? And I know sometimes people feel somewhat entitled to details about the people that they follow
Yes.
on social media because of the kind of parasocial relationship. So why didn't we talk about it earlier publicly? The first reason is you don't when you're not sure where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
When you're going through change, it's frightening, and I wasn't capable of talking about it while I was scared that we might not figure it out very well.
Yeah.
Or that it might be a disaster.
Yeah.
Because it's always possible. Changing the relationship might be the thing that breaks you up, and that was never either
No,
of our
absolutely.
intentions, but it might have been. So yeah, I wasn't going to be putting out a video about, oh look, we're having an open relationship, followed by the next month like, well now we're divorcing.
Now we're divorcing. No, absolutely.
Because that would have been
Absolutely.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I don't feel like we're by any means experienced enough to be telling people how to do it.
Well, no, and
Anyway.
I would inject a note of caution here is that as well, like, we are strictly monogamous when it comes to our romantic relationship. We are not having a third person come in as a living maid here.
No, I'm using the
nor
monogamy
will
sort
we,
of.
nor will we.
No, this is a
So,
kind of
like,
convenient catch-all
This is a
term.
convenient catch-all for doing BDSM with other people. So, like, we're not compromising. We've got no wisdom to share on that sort of polygamy at all.
But I certainly wouldn't have felt even entitled to having as much of an opinion as we have today. 3 years ago, I'd have just thought people would just think, shut up,
Yes.
you've been doing this for half an hour. Like all the journalists during COVID who were suddenly writing stuff about OnlyFans. I think you've literally just found out about it and you've already got an opinion. Jesus. And that's why I felt like, I still feel a bit like that. But I feel like if I'm going to start whoring my book around, this is
Probably better, yes.
But maybe you'd like to talk about the reason you
Yes, the reason
particularly
that
didn't
I
want to talk
particularly
about
didn't want
it.
to talk about it is that Ariel already gets inundated with inappropriate requests from men, usually from sub-men to dom them, which she's never going to do. She's never going to do, she's a sub.
Well observed.
But I just thought that the moment that a snifter of this comes out, that you might be available, you're just going to get deluged with annoying messages, and just like, you do not need that. You've got more than enough to deal with.
Thank you for making it sound as though you believe you have a very beautiful
I have a very beautiful, high-status
Thank you, darling.
BDSM model wife. I'm still concerned that what's going to happen is an absolute inundation of twats.
Well, we'll see. Let's hope that people are nice and normal and classy.
We'll see.
About it. Because, I don't know about you, but I don't want to play with 20 people.
Maybe.
What
Give it a go.
What a slut! What a slut he is.
But I'm not interested in playing with men.
No, that's fair. You should probably point that out. And we have quite limited time. But on the other hand, I am quite excited that by saying it publicly, you might get inundated.
Maybe.
Because I have to say, like at the beginning of this process, Hal said like something to the tune of, oh, I bet I won't find anyone, I bet you're going to get someone to play with, and I'm not going to get anyone to play with. And that has not been the case. That has not been an issue, has it?
Not thus far.
No, not really. Well done, darling.
Considerably to my surprise.
So if you're a woman, it's probably okay to write to Hal, as long as you do it in a normal way. It's
suppose.
okay to say.
I
That
guess.
was rather pimpy of me, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was.
But I think-
Well, I mean, you pimped out everything else about me as well.
But you can't come and live with us in Gareth.
No.
Sorry.
No. There's no room on the wellies.
No.
No room on the bed. See, because Gareth sleeps here.
He does.
And there's just no room.
It does. Does it occur to you that perhaps we might need to address this rather idiosyncratic aspect of our relationship?
Which one?
Gareth.
But he lives here.
It's too late now.
He told us quite early on that he lived here specifically.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle of the bed.
There we go. So, thank you as always for listening. I hope you found that useful. Please apply to Hal if you're looking for
I guess.
If you're a woman looking for a play partner. Please don't apply to me because I have very limited time and I already have a very full dance card and I'm addicted to work. So I've discovered I've got limited energy for playing when I'm away from home. Comment as always. I'll delete you if you say anything super weird. But courteous replies are always welcome. If you're an incel, please don't. There are other videos for you to reply to already. Thank you as always. This is Ariel's Twilight Years and it's goodbye from me and Hywel and Gareth. Bye bye now.